Good morning. My name is Donna Marie Collins. I am the hearing examiner that will be presiding over the Singletary CPD application. Do we have any members of the public here? No. Okay, then I'm going to dispense with my normal introduction. Everyone here knows the procedure. We will start with the applicant's representative as soon as I administer the oath. If you will be speaking or entering evidence into the record, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony and evidence you give this morning will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For your record, my name is Richard Aiken. I'm an attorney with Henderson Franklin here in Fort Myers. I'm here this morning representing the applicant with regard to the Singletary CPD, which is DCI case number 2024-00043. We have our project team here this morning, which includes Tina Ekblad. She is the project planner, and you'll hear from her in a minute. Brent Addison is the project engineer. He's here as well this morning. Michael Jessic is here on behalf of Water Science Associates, and he is the water consultant. Barrett Staskel is the ecologist on the project, and Ted Treesh is our traffic engineer. Before I turn it over to Tina, I'll just note that we did file a 48-hour letter in conjunction with this matter, which identified a few I won't call them areas of disagreement because they are now in agreement with staff with regard to revisions to the conditions. Primarily, what originally happened with this application was before the order of taking occurred with regard to the State Road 31 right-of-way, there were two options for the master concept plan. The order of taking has now occurred. We provided that as part of our 48-hour letter. So what happened was we've now eliminated the option for the master concept plan that would have been an option should the taking had not yet have occurred, okay? So now that it's occurred, we've just eliminated it.
One option only.
One option only now, right? So the conditions have been revised. There was also a revision with regard to the open space in that what was the second option, now the only option, and we are in agreement with staff with regarding the changes noted in the 48-hour letter. I do have a copy of the 48-hour letter for you. I also have 2 copies of the master concept plan and 2 copies of our PowerPoint.
Okay. This is the 48-hour letter?
Correct.
All right, I think that's already marked as an exhibit, so this is be my copy. This is the revised master concept plan
Correct.
with a new date, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Okay, that will be applicant exhibit 2. PowerPoint will be applicant exhibit 3. Do you want a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I can get it from Marie.
Okay.
So I can write that.
And Madam Hearing Examiner, as you noted, with regard to the master concept plan that I provided you, it is updated to today's date. It's also updated to show only the option that is now being put forward, one option instead of the 2. So there's not as many pages as what was in the previous submittal.
Okay.
All right. And with that, unless you have any questions of me, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ekblad.
Okay, I'm ready.
Good morning. For the record, Tina Ekblad with Sage Entitlements. Just a kind of a brief background on the property as I throw things around. The Singletary property is located in between North River Road and State Road 31, which is this intersection here, and then the Caloosahatchee River. In totality, it's approximately 16.8 acres, although 3.6 acres are expected to be taken for the State Road 31 improvements. Currently, the property is Mr. Singletary's primary homesteaded residence, and there is an agricultural exemption on the property. We did submit the executed agricultural affidavit as part of the 48-hour letter confirming that exemption. As you can see on the left-hand side, the property is within the outlying suburban future land use, and in the nearby vicinity, there's new community, rural, and public facilities. The property lands within two planning communities, the first being Northeast Lee, which includes Alva and North Olga, and then the primary planning community that is applicable is North Olga. And we're also within two utility provider service areas, the first being Lee County Utilities and Florida Governmental Utility Authority. There was a letter of availability from Lee County provided with the application. The lines do not run in front of the property yet, but they are anticipated to be expanded with the ongoing development in this corridor. State Road 31 is already identified as a strategic corridor for the Florida Department of Transportation. There are improvements actively ongoing south of the river, and they are expected to extend northward over the bridge into this particular section of 31. I believe it's in the next year. And when you combine that with some of the other policy changes that have occurred in this area that we'll talk about later in the presentation, what we're seeing is an intensification of commercial within this corridor. Specifically, the project request before you today is to rezone the property from AG2 to commercial plan development, to permit 110,000 square feet of commercial uses and 100,000 square feet of mini warehouse. While we do have deviations identified on the master concept plan, none of those are from the North Olga community requirements in Chapter 33. And the...
Can we just back up real quick for a
Sure.
minute? I'm going to want you to elaborate on this later, but this brings it to mind. I noticed on the list of permitted uses, it includes warehouse, mini, public, and private, and also storage, open and enclosed. So I'm going to need clarification on what exactly is envisioned here and whether outdoor storage is going to count toward your square footage or not. What is a little bit more clarity on that, because mini warehouse is a very defined term under the Land Development Code, and I just don't want you to unnecessarily limit yourself. You might want to just describe it as storage, you know, so that you can include public warehouse, mini, and private.
I see. Okay.
Pardon the interruption.
No, that's a good interruption and an appropriate clarification given what you just said. Okay. So I believe, to your point, the intention was for it to be warehouse given the way that the schedule of uses is put together.
And that allows for the various kinds.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
so
It may be that the application form incorrectly used the term mini warehouse, and that's where I pulled that from.
I don't have the ad in front of me, but I mean, let's just go from here.
Okay. So just backing up a step to the Lee plan and where we're at in the world, I mentioned the outlying suburban future land use. That is for peripheral locations in relationship to urban areas. There is some infrastructure that is planned or in place to support the uses anticipated in the outlying suburban future land use. I talked a little bit about the fact that we're in Northeast Lee. That is kind of an overlay that encompasses multiple planning communities. And the purpose is to maintain and enhance rural character and natural resources, with rural character defined as clustered development, large open spaces, and the protection of environmentally sensitive lands. We did host a community meeting at the Alva Community Center on March 18th that satisfies the requirements of Northeast Lee. And then the very next day, we also had a meeting on the Greenwell property for the North Olga planning community. Echoing the vision of Northeast Lee, the North Olga planning community, again, emphasizes rural character in the diversification of its economy and maintaining quality of life, the protection of natural resources through the promotion of clustered development, and then a enhanced design in terms of landscaping, architectural standards, et cetera, promoting rural character. And then there are several policies that suggest that commercial is allowed within this planning community and that it should support the rural community in the surrounding area. And so with that, we've worked to create the master concept plan in a manner that takes the existing wetlands on the eastern side of the property and preserve them. To be clear, there is an isolated wetland in this general vicinity shown on the first page of the master concept plan that is proposed to be impacted. As a result of that impact, we are proposing compensatory storage in the northeastern corner. And then there will be plantings in the non-indigenous areas to promote natural habitat. And so the entire eastern portion of the property, including the compensatory storage, will be a preserve of native habitat. What that does is exceeds the required 50% indigenous as well as the required 30% open space just with this area to the east.
So in this area, they are envisioning supplemental plantings, is that what you said?
Yeah, the hatched areas here would be non-indigenous and plantings would occur in this preserve.
Okay, and then what is this area that is on, in between?
That's the upland buffer that's required when we preserve the wetlands.
Okay. And then that lake is stormwater management?
Correct. And so what that does is leave the rest of the property fronting 31 for the development of the anticipated commercial uses. We do have some deviations to effectuate this site plan. The first being a single access point to State Road 31. That is due to the Florida Department of Transportation regulating that we can only have one access point. So while that is inconsistent with the Land Development Code, there is no opportunity for a secondary access. And so what we've done is, to the north of this is a mixed-use plan development. They have a internal driveway aisle here to their commercial uses. We've proposed to work with them and have an internal access to connect these two subdivisions, which would promote better circulation without traffic having to come out onto State Road 31 to get in between the properties. The other deviations that we have is a reduction from the 50-foot required setback for the stormwater management lake. That's a reduction down to 30. That 30-foot reduction is allowed by the Land Development Code at the director's discretion. We are not anticipating there be any issues there. And then we also requested the southern buffer be a 15-foot type D buffer. Staff has recommended approval of that deviation, and then the applicant and staff have agreed to enhance the type D buffer along track D due to the existing single-family uses that are across this 100-foot drainage easement. So on track D, there will be a fence, and then the continuous hedgerow will be maintained at a minimum of 60 inches. So we're ensuring that there will be visual as well as physical separation to the existing single family that occurs in this general vicinity. Are there any other questions about the master concept plan before I move off this slide?
Yeah, the southern border, can we go to your prior slide that shows the property to the south? So you can just show me, okay, you know.
You want this
that
one?
No, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so track D falls roughly
Right about
east.
here.
Where are you pointing? Okay, come do it over here.
Sure.
Better. Do it on that one.
It's right about here.
All right, so that's going to protect, those are 3 single-family residences, or?
So this is like a paddock. It appears they're doing some sort of livestock-related activity on this portion of the property, and then there's single family on these 2 lots here, and this lot is vacant.
So the type D buffer will be just on the 2,
Where the single
all
family
3,
is.
or just the 2?
Let me check the master concept plan. Affirm.
So type D buffer is basically from the right-of-way to your water management lake, but when you talked about enhancing it with
Yes.
a fence and the hedge, that is strictly track D.
Yeah, so the fence and the hedge would, so this is the vacant property here.
Right.
Fence would start at this corner and continue the length of track D, and then where the lake maintenance easement is, there's no fence, because that would conflict
Right.
with the easement.
Right, okay,
Does that help?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the MCP?
No, thank you.
Okay. So as you know, in recommending the case to the Board of County Commissioners, there are required findings and recommendations that need to be made regarding the access and the transportation facilities. The proposed access is appropriate for the development intensity, and excuse me, there are no anticipated negative impacts to State Road 31 as a result of the requested single access or the development intensity. And then additionally, the request has to demonstrate that it will not adversely affect environmentally critical or sensitive areas. When we've talked about the preservation of the existing wetlands on site and the compensatory storage associated with the single isolated wetland impact, we do agree with the condition in the staff report that once a jurisdictional determination is issued, there may need to be amendments to the master concept plan to reflect that state permit, and the applicant is aware of that. And then also the 4.43 acres of open space that's created from the wetland preserve, the non-indigenous within that wetland area, and then the upland buffer exceeds the indigenous and open space requirements of a commercial development. I wanted to briefly touch on the land use framework that has occurred in State Road 31 area over the last few years. This area has been anticipated for increasing commercial intensity since approximately 2017. At that time, there was a text amendment to the Lee Plan that permitted neighborhood commercial within a quarter mile of State Road 31 in the North Olga Community Plan between the Civic Center and the river. This property is within that location. The commercial definitions were also amended, so neighborhood commercial was established at 30,000 to 100,000 square feet. And then there was also an amendment to policy 6.12 that permitted community commercial if a plan development was submitted and approved. The definition for community commercial was increased to 100,000 to 400,000 square feet. So that's really where we saw kind of a change in what could occur in this category, particularly within the North Olga planning community. There was an anticipation that commercial intensity would start to kind of transition this area from a rural to suburban location. And then also we had several private amendments, one being Babcock Ranch to the north, which established a significant amount of residential density and commercial intensity. And then there was the rural preservation incentives, which was a text amendment to policy 132-217 that allowed for density increases when indigenous communities were preserved. As a result of that, we have the Owl Creek RPD and the Carrie Duke Povia RPD to the east. Both of these communities are accessed off of North River Road, so they will be driving up 31, past the subject property, turning east onto North River Road to access these developments. They are both in development order review at this point in time. And then finally, the subject property and its surrounding parcels to the north and south were included in the outlying suburban future land use amendment that was processed in 2023. I apologize, I've blocked off the text here, but it indicates that there are several other rezoning applications within the State Road 31 corridor that are currently pending on the west side of the road in the Bayshore community as well. Even though this property is within a future suburban area, it will have a full slate of urban services available to it. I've mentioned the utilities will be provided either by Lee County Utilities or the Florida Government Utility Authority. There's a little bit of an overlap there. Emergency services are available between the Bayshore and Alva fire departments. The Bayshore Fire Department is the district that will service this property. There are several locations for the Lee County Sheriff. And then regarding transportation, we did submit a impact statement that with the 4-laning of State Road 31, there are no anticipated capacity deficiencies on the adjacent roadway. In speaking about the surrounding development, we have several future land use categories and several types of development occurring within this area. We've talked about the Owl Creek RPD, which is to the east in this general vicinity. And then immediately adjacent to that is the Carrie Duke Povia RPD. To the north of North River Road is the Babcock Ranch MPD. along with the Greenwell MPD immediately north of the subject property. And so what that's doing with these future land use categories is increasing the density and intensity anticipated in this area. And then you'll see some of the, most of the remaining properties are within the rural future land use, which supports existing estate residential. There are some commercial businesses existing at the intersection of North River Road and State Road 31. And then the Lee County Civic Center is at the general intersection of Bayshore Road, Babcock Ranch Road, and State Road 31. So again, we're seeing this transition between the existing rural community and the anticipated suburban with these higher intensity future land use categories.
Does the pale yellow coloring represent agricultural zoning?
Correct. This is the zoning map. So we do have a large amount of agricultural zoning in the area. Agriculture is generally considered a transitional zoning, and we would anticipate with the outlying suburban future land use category between North River Road and the river that these agricultural zonings would transition over time into a higher intensity and density.
Right. I asked because I thought, for some reason, I thought that corner piece was already zoned to something, but I guess it hadn't. Because I know the Lee Plan amendment occurred, but I thought that had been rezoned already, but I guess not.
No, it's my understanding that Mr. Crimebrink is still living on that property, but he does desire commercial development in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So again, just getting back to the findings and the recommendations, in consideration of this project, the hearing examiner must find that the request complies with the Lee Plan. The commercial intensity that we have requested is consistent with the existing future land use. The commercial policies that are anticipated to direct development in this area, and the schedule of uses does include uses that support the rural community. The design does preserve the existing natural resources and clusters the development to the maximum extent possible along the State Road 31 frontage. We are meeting the code and the meeting the land development code, and we have requested those 3 deviations to enhance the plan development and effectuate the design that you see here, along with addressing future conditions of the property. And we talked about that enhanced buffering to protect the existing residential. I believe that the master concept plan and the requested schedule of uses is compatible with the existing and planned uses in the area. The development parameters proposed support the anticipated suburban development, and then the conditions and the enhancements to the type D buffer ensure compatibility with those existing residential uses. And they do include a clause basically that should those single family uses go away and non-residential uses occur on those properties, the enhanced type D buffer can be modified accordingly for commercial to commercial development. You must also make a finding that the mix of uses is appropriate at this location. State Road 31 is transitioning to a commercial corridor, particularly with the controlled access from FDOT. The schedule of uses is appropriate, and it does support agricultural, commercial, and minor industrial uses. The recommended conditions do promote sufficient safeguards related to the public interest. They will ensure that open space, indigenous preservation, water quality monitoring, conservation easements, central utilities, compensatory storage, and compliance with the North Olga design standards are upheld as this project moves into the development order stage. And then the deviations do enhance the plan development and protect public health, safety, and welfare. The 3 deviations are minor to address existing and anticipated conditions of the future development of the property. That concludes my presentation in chief. It is my professional opinion that the application is consistent with the Lee Plan and the requirements of the Land Development Code, and we would respectfully request your recommendation of approval. With regard to your question about the mini warehouse versus the warehouse, we should clearly check the advertisement, but I believe the narrative and the other materials were written for it to be more warehouse, open storage, that type of thing. So if we need to give me a minute to kind of collate my thoughts, I'd be happy to discuss that further on the record.
Circle back at the end, that's fine.
Okay. And then I don't know how staff feels about that question.
I can speak to it. I think
Okay.
that we're covered, but I have the affidavit right here, and we'll go over that during my
Okay.
presentation.
Did you have any other questions? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
The only question I have is
Yeah, these types of uses are in the schedule already.
the question is,
Looks good. Yeah.
question I think that confusion.
You gotta get a pick, maybe.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner, Madam Court Reporter. For your record, I'm Adam Mendez. I'm a principal planner with the Community Development Zoning section. My resume is on file. I do have a brief PowerPoint presentation, copies of
Okay,
which...
hang on a second. I'm not getting a presentation on transportation or environmental or anything like that?
No, she's asking. We are happy to answer any questions that you have regarding those topics. We did not include those in the case in chief.
Okay, because I'm gonna want clarification on the actual build-out date, because the transportation materials between staff and applicant reference two separate dates, and I'd like to know what build-out is, and I'd like somebody to walk me through the stormwater management for the site, if they would.
Okay.
Would you guys like to do that now or after the staff presentation?
Just go ahead and do it now.
Okay.
When do you want to go
We'll
first?
pull up your slides.
Yes, so,
Okay.
And I was hoping for a little more detail on the environmental significance of that wetland and what's in it and what its function is, and
Hey, good morning. Brent, you got the winner, sorry.
need the
Good morning. Brent Addison with Atwell, licensed engineer in the state of Florida. I have presented in this room before, and I'd like to be recognized as an
yes,
expert
please
witness.
continue.
Thank you. So, for the stormwater, speaking today on this, for the stormwater management portion of the project, this is going to be anticipated to be commercial development. While we are actually in flux right now in changes for the rules for the water management district, so things that have been discussed previously will be slightly different because the rules are changing in December for that. So they're going from a more volumetric requirement to a nutrient-based requirement. So this this development would comply with the new rules with the water management district as it moves forward. So it is anticipated that with the new rules, similar to the old rules, there is a pretreatment requirement for commercial development. And so prior to the drainage going into the stormwater lake, there will be some sort of retention or treatment on the parcels themselves, and that was anticipated for this. So there will be a pretreatment that will, remove the oils and trash and things that come off of commercial development in the parking lots. And then that would go through a control structure that would drain into the stormwater lake here in the back. And then ultimately, because of the way the water is flowing on this site historically, that stormwater lake is going to drain into the wetland preserve in the back, which would continue the historical flow direction, as well as continue to hydrate that preserve that's going to be required to be analyzed as part of the water management district permitting.
There's going to be treatment on the parcels first, because it's commercial development.
Yes,
Then it's going to outfall into the lake, where it'll be retained for a while, and then further water quality treatment, then to the wetland,
yes,
which outfalls into the Caloosahatchee, right?
correct.
All right.
So, I mean, as far as stormwater goes, that's pretty, there is a, as part of this, it works for both ways for what Bear can talk about with the wetland, but with the compensating storage, this area is actually kind of a raised dirt road that's back here right now, and there's actually a culvert that drains underneath that road. Part of these improvements with increasing the storage to compensate in the front will also kind of restore historical flows that were coming from the north and then draining out to the southeast of this property.
Because this wetland is connected to the one on the Greenwell MPD, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. Right now, like I said, there's actually like an access road that runs back here that would be eliminated, and will actually be improving the historical drainage flow for the site.
So is that a flowway?
Yes. I don't think it's designated by FEMA as a flowway that we would be used to in other parts of the county, but it is been documented.
Right, it will restore historical flow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Barrett State School, Bear Paws Environmental. I've been previously tendered as an expert
Yes.
witness. Going back kind of on what Brent was saying, there's a isolated wetland up in the front of the property that is not being preserved because it's isolated in nature, not connected to the rest of the system on site. The area where Brent was talking to is I believe it's an old power line easement perhaps, but it's definitely a raised trail that ran along the northern part of the property boundary. And Brent had, like he discussed, removing that culvert and just connecting it to the historical flows of the property that kind of flow southeast and east, if you will, on the property. So
When you say remove the culvert, you mean you're gonna regrade it to remove the road?
correct? Yes, yes, ma'am. So the road will be removed. It's going to be replanted. The hatched areas, I believe, like Tina was discussing earlier, are areas to be replanted. Those, it's these areas right here and here, as well as including the hatched area here, are all going to be replanted. They're E3 exotics.
So, okay, so they're exotics,
Yes,
they'll be
ma'am.
removed.
Exotics will be removed and those areas will be replanted, yeah, and it includes, it's this area here and central north, and then the southern portion is E3 exotics greater than 50%, 75% exotics. So those areas will be, exotics will be removed, be replanted, and then the area along the north also, the whole preserve will have any exotics removed. But then the northernmost portion will be replanted with the other hatched areas.
Okay, now, I don't know if you're the one to speak to this, but I noticed in the proposed conditions, there was some monitoring.
I think typically as proposed, we will have a monitoring program set up out here for the preserve areas, correct? I mean, we will have to, more than likely, to answer that question, I'm not sure if that's what's gonna be done. However, when we go to the district permitting process, they will likely require a monitoring plan.
All right, because there was a condition about water monitoring, wasn't there?
Correct.
Yeah. All right, I was just wondering, where's that gonna take place? And the condition addresses the frequency and the format and all that, but, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was surprised there was no wildlife at all.
I didn't see anything when I was out there. It was really thick in the back, so as far as wading birds, it was dry when I was out there too. Wading birds could utilize that area as part of which is kind of why they're preserving it, as well as
Sure.
historical flow. But yeah, no species. I mean, it's a single family residence too, so
Right.
it kind of eliminates other potential species too.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Ted Sharish with TR Transportation Consultants. To answer your question on the build-out date, there was an error in the text of my analysis, but the build-out date that was analyzed is consistent with the staff. It was 2028 in the analysis. There just was an error on page 8, I believe, that referenced 2027, but all the analysis was conducted for 2028, which is consistent with the staff memo.
And then just, can you kind of go over the improvements that are planned for the
Yes.
general area and when that's anticipated to be complete?
Yes, those improvements are under construction. That contract has been let. It's being constructed by the Babcock Improvement District under the guise of
Let's go
FDOT.
to a slide that shows the wider area.
Slide
Yeah.
1 has the
Yeah, I'll go back to
improvements
that.
overlaying right there. There's a good example.
So FDOT has broken up the State Route 31 project into two parts, north of State Route 78 and south of State Route 78. South of State Route 78 includes the bridge over the Caloosahatchee. That's being done by FDOT. That project is in a design build phase, and it's projected to be started next year. But the section north of State Route 78 has just finished utility relocation and has now started building the lanes in the right-of-way. A little further north along the Babcock Ranch portion, and as you heard, they've now started acquiring the right-of-way along these parcels to start the construction process probably in the next year on this section as you get down towards the State Route 78 intersection. So it'll be a 4-lane divided cross-section. The signal at State Route 78 will be maintained. In this section, you see there's U-turn movements at Old Rodeo to our south and a U-turn at this driveway. Whoops, that's not the, to the north.
That's the MPD.
Yes. So we've met with FDOT. They've indicated that we can have one access connection on the frontage, a right-in, right-out connection. So traffic will be able to turn right in and then right out and do a U-turn at this location to continue back to the south. And then traffic coming from the north will be able to do a U-turn at Old Rodeo and then get into the property at this location. I would like to also comment that our traffic study was done based on the first master concept plan, which was the more intense use of the entire property. Now that that master concept plan has been eliminated, this was obviously based on a much more intense use than what's ultimately going to be developed now that the front half of the property has been eliminated from the.
All right, I thought I read somewhere, I don't know if it was a staff report or in the TIS or some kind of backup, that there was going to be a 6-lane, 3 travel lanes somewhere. Is that
This is
heading to the
being,
bridge?
it's being designed for 6, but it's only initially being constructed as a 4-lane divided. The 6th lane is south of State Route 78. It'll be 6 lanes.
It will be 6 lanes.
It will be 6 lanes from State Route 78 across the bridge
To
to State Route 80.
80.
Yes.
And then at that intersection, it's going to transition down to 4 lanes?
Yes.
Oh, well, that won't be a cluster.
No. Nope, not a bit.
Because there's a lot of traffic on that road, a lot of truck
Yes.
traffic, and of course, there's only 1 lane each way right now, so.
Correct. Did you have any other questions?
Interesting choice, though.
It is.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Madam Hearing Examiner, Richard Aiken again for the record. Just, you asked a question about location of the water quality monitoring. So attachment K has the water quality monitoring plan and outlines that the water quality monitoring will occur at the downstream outfall, which is approximately right here in the wetland.
Okay,
It delineates the location as CS1 there. If you have any more questions about that, I'm sure Mr.
No.
Addison can answer them.
thank you. I just want to make sure everything is covered. Are we ready for Adam now?
I think so.
So can I look at the ad? Because I'm a little surprised we don't have anybody here.
Say again?
Can I look at the ad?
Absolutely.
'Cause I'm a little surprised we don't have anyone here.
Yes. The ad is very general. Under the advisement of the county attorney's office, it is simply rezoning X amount of acres from AG2 to CPD. Here's a copy of the presentation.
Okay, we'll make this affidavit of publication Staff Exhibit 3. Staff Exhibit 1 was the staff report. Staff Exhibit 2 was their 48-hour letter. I already explained Staff Exhibit 3, and Staff Exhibit 4 will be the PowerPoint. Now that the advertisement is not a limitation in any way on the warehouse use, when we circle back to you, I'd like clarification on how and what you're contemplating there so that we make sure you're not limited unnecessarily in any way.
Again, for the record, Adam Mendez, Principal Planner, Community Development Zoning Section. My resume is on file with the Hearing Examiner's Office. I have provided copies of the PowerPoint presentation to the applicant. I wanted to start off with the discussion on the way staff has categorized these self-storage uses. This is exactly how it's framed up in condition 1C of the recommended conditions. So instead of using the approach mini warehouse, we used kind of a general umbrella term that's been used before in plan developments, self-storage. So that there's a recommendation in the language, and the staff recommendation is 100,000 square feet of self-storage uses, which just generally speaking, these warehouse uses, a mini warehouse, public warehouse, which is the multi-tier story indoor version, hybrid warehouse. They're functionally principal uses that deal with the sorting and storage of dead storage, which is defined in the code.
So it encompasses all enclosed storage.
Precisely, yeah.
So how is the outdoor storage going to be treated in connection with the request for storage open?
So I think that the applicant and staff would be agreeable, and this is how we looked at it. Open storage would be purely accessory to a permitted principal use. So it wouldn't be necessarily a principal use of a tract and land. It would be accessory to uses such as contractors and builders, groups 2 and 3 namely. That's listed as a permitted use. There's other uses that might enjoy outdoor storage, but it won't be a primary use. And I'll let Ms. Ekblad speak to that.
Yeah, I would just add that it could be accessory to the indoor storage. There are some places that offer both.
But will it count toward commercial square footage or no?
It typically, when I have permitted it in the past, it has not counted towards the square footage. And there are supplemental regulations regarding the buffering and the setbacks in the land development code that would apply to that open storage use.
I just want to put a finer point on it, that's all. So that you don't have a hiccup later and.
I appreciate that.
So moving on, I want to just point out that, and this is just another slide, it's attachment C of the staff report, the case maps where we can delineate between the rural public facilities and outlying suburban future land use category that the property is currently designated subsequent to the 2022 policy changes in the LEAP plan in map 1A, the future land use map element. I wanted to kind of highlight that this category, it's fairly permissive. The only explicit prohibitions are bonus densities are not permitted in this category. There's no density being requested aside from retention of the existing single family for the interim use, and as well as there are no industrial land uses permitted as typical in suburban categories. So this request, as it stands before you, CPD, it's going through the DCI process. Naturally, it exceeds the acreages that require this rezoning to be proffered through the vehicle of a commercial plan development. You've heard that there's some community plan policies that reference if you're proposing not minor commercial, neighborhood commercial or community commercial, that the plan development again becomes the vehicle to propose these types of land uses. The schedule of uses we'll get into, it's pared down. It's not quite a carbon copy of the MPD to the north. It's been kind of tastefully pared down given its location. The zoning category, here's another shade of AG2 and delineation with you can see the CF, Community Facility Zoning, that encompasses the 100-acre Civic Center, Lee County Civic Center. You've got the subject properties currently within that AG2 zoning, directly abutting the SR31 Greenwell MPD, which is a MPD that comprises of 77 acres approximately, with 400,000 square feet of commercial that's located on about 33 acres fronting SR31, and then the other 44 acres are a combination of single family and multifamily uses that are at the top range of the density, standard density range, which is 3 units an acre. 122 dwelling units are permitted. You can see the western extent of Owl Creek, just on the other side of this large estate property that actually spans all the way down goes from North River all the way down to the Caloosahatchee. So I have a couple slides here that superimpose the SR31 Greenwell MCP, and then as well as the proposed MCP before you, to kind of get an idea as to what we're currently looking at as this property is zoned AG2. So in light of the SR31 Greenwell rezoning, this is the current layout, this is the current context of what this existing single-family residence is now directly abutting to the north. And you can see the single family is generally located here, about catty corner to one of the commercial buildings that is located along SR31. I think this is a pole barn. This is the MCP with the order of taking, and you can see the general limits of the SR31 realignment. You can see the tracks here, and you can see the way that the preserves interlock on the back half of the property. I'm going to go to this slide here where we can really look at the way that this MCP interfaces with the single-family lots that are directly across the 100-foot wide ingress-egress drainage easement that comprise this T-shaped lot here. And so we had some discussion here. Track D interfaces with, I think Ms. Ekblad referenced this as like a paddock. It doesn't have an existing single family on this actual parcel, but it's under common ownership. There is a single family here, and there is another single family. This is actually a single family residence right here as well. So you can see that the way that the lake tract kind of interfaces and the way that track D on the proposed MCP kind of interfaces across this drainage, low-lying drainage.
How wide is that drainage easement?
It's 100 feet wide, and the easement, the terms of the easement are attached to the staff report. And as part of the staff analysis, we took in consideration that, I mean, if we just look at the alignment on this property in concert with the commercial that's fronting SR31 on the Greenwell 31 MPD, you can see that a significant portion of parking and commercial opportunity is going to be, or has been taken. And so we see this PD and the residential is largely intact in its location. You can see that this PD kind of supplements some of that commercial that is naturally going to be consumed by this taking. And so when we speak about the North Olga Community Plan and their ambitions for compact mixed-use development or compact mixed-use clustered development, I think that these pieces are going to work together in the future to kind of accomplish that mixed-use goal. And it's an appropriate location on the Babcock Ranch Road, SR31. When we look at the actual surrounding area in the context of North Olga as a whole, you can see in this slide here, the approvals in pink, those are all planned development approvals. This is the Singletary CPD in scale. And you can see between Owl Creek, Cary Duke Povia, Babcock Ranch, we've got a lot of residential development that's occurring out here, thousands of units. And so I think this commercial land use, this vision of commercial on this property is appropriate given the improvements that are going on in this corridor. You can also see the Armida property, which is a pending comprehensive plan map application to redesignate from DRGR to rural and to rezone to RPD for some additional units here. So it's almost like the hole in the donut here between the Babcock Ranch PD and Cary Duke Povia to the south. So you can really see the scale of the activity in this corridor, especially in the context of the residential units that are going to come online within their respective build-out dates. So we think that this PD application not only complements the existing mixed-use commercial development to the north, but it also complements and will provide basic commercial services to this growing population of North Olga.
Okay, go back to the previous slide, please.
Yeah.
When is the Armada plan amendment public hearing?
Yes, correct. It's currently undergoing staff review, first round.
So it hasn't been to the LPA yet or anything like
It
that?
has not. This is just kind of a depiction to show the movement out there, the pink being approved. And then the, I don't, flamingo, peach, whatever you want to call that, is pending.
What's pending?
The Armida property,
Oh,
so,
oh, the
yeah.
flamingo.
So as part of the staff 48-hour letter, we did attempt to show the differences in the published conditions of approval, the published recommended conditions of approval with strike through and underline, eliminating a master concept plan. There's a lot less guesswork with 2 MCPs. The language was tightened up, working with Ms. Ekblad to make it make more sense, so to speak. So we thought that was a clean addition. We had additional language to address kind of the ambiguity in the idea as to, well, what does this enhanced type D buffer look like and where is it actually located? Because there's some dimensions that were in the original recommendation that were kind of confusing. So I think we buttoned those up and we're in agreement on those. The schedule of uses and development regulations, while they're not carbon copies of the MPD to the north, they're very similar. This schedule of uses, if you compare it to what was approved as part of the SR 31 Greenwell, it's actually pared down. There's uses like boatyard, which aren't requested as part of this recommendation, but bus depots, things of that nature that may actually at some scale have an industrial flair to them. Some of the conditions that you see here bulleted in blue, those are conditions that are consistent with the SR 31 Greenwell approval as well. The difference here is the condition regarding the track D building height, and I wanted to kind of get a slide up here to depict what the intention is there, and that this 50-foot distance that's actually derived from the 50-foot setback that's implemented as part of the Chapter 33 regulations for North Olga with respect to how far buildings are to be set back from the development perimeter from a right-of-way. So we use that same 50-foot setback measurement to put a transition zone here for which the height would be the same as the height that's permitted in the directly abutting AG2 zoning district, which is 35 feet above flood elevation.
Okay, I don't have the condition in front of me right now.
It's actually right here.
With regard to the installation of the type D buffer on track D, is that triggered by a development order for track D, or is that triggered by a development order for the infrastructure for the site?
It's my understanding it'd be part of the backbone infrastructure that all perimeter buffers be installed.
Okay, and then, so then it's unlikely that the buffer won't be necessary if it's gonna go in, unless there's not single-family uses at the time the infrastructure DO is approved. Now, once it's installed, I want to make sure that it's continuously maintained, notwithstanding what happens on the south, right?
Right.
Or no, it can be removed? What's the plan for that?
The plan is the only outcome for which the buffer that's conditioned as part of this deviation would not take place is if the property was rezoned to a non-residential use.
Okay, so once it's installed,
Yeah,
okay. But I don't want them to have to go through a public hearing process again if they want to take it out, if the property to the south is rezoned to a commercial use. I don't want
Right.
any hiccups, I don't want any
Yeah.
bone spurs in this, if it's, there's a change. I'll take a look at the condition.
the aim was, the aim was to acknowledge that if the change happens, it's not necessary anymore.
So it can be removed.
It could be removed if the land is rezoned to, as Ms. Ekblad said, if a future use is commercial, non-residential, it can be converted to a type A buffer, which is the buffer required between commercial land uses. And that should be, the language should be written in a manner that would allow that to happen without a public hearing.
Right, but once it's installed, until it's taken down to an A, it has to be maintained.
Correct.
Okay.
Perpetuity, yeah. And I don't know how much you'd like me to go into this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We're asking for just a drop down, a step down in height within 50 feet of the south boundary.
I understood
Okay.
the condition.
Okay. So with that, as this has been echoed here before, the staff recommendation is approval with conditions. The standards for approval have been met. The substantive analysis and the staff report detail in hopefully ad nauseum that the request meets the standards for approval. I'm happy to address any questions you may have, and hopefully any of these pictorial slides can help guide
I
us in
don't have
that.
any questions, thank you. I felt well prepared for this hearing. I performed the site visit. I read through the documentation in the staff report. The presentations were very complete. I understand what's going on here. This area is in transition. This is in response to, what we can expect this roadway to be, and the access is limiting, I think, in terms of the intensity of what we can anticipate on this property, being right in, right out only. So I don't envision there being any issues. I should be able to release a recommendation within 2 weeks. Thank you. Again, checking, any members of the public? No? Any concluding remarks? Not necessary, just offering.
No, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. The record is complete, so we will close the record for the hearing, and thank you to everyone.